Hi everyone, this is Dustin the Blind Minnesotan. Today I want to talk about how the US government can encourage more blind and visually impaired people to work and people with other disabilities. And how we can get companies to hire people with disabilities. So more people with disabilities can, work. The first thing I would suggest the government to do is don't punish disabled people with permanent disabilities on Social Security. So, what I believe is this is my opinion. We're in America, you're allowed to disagree with me. So, if your disability is forever permanent, like mine with my vision impairment, I believe no matter what you do in your life, you should get up to $1,200 a month. No matter if you're working, no matter if you're unemployed, no matter what, if you're disabled and your disabled's permanent, you should at least get $1,200 a month. No questions asked. And then you should be able to get up to $250 of food stamps / EBT money per month. No questions asked. If you're disabled, if your disability is like mine, it's not going away. And then you should be able to get Medicare and get with full coverage at public hospitals like Hennepin County Medical Center in downtown Minneapolis. Like places like that, all disabled people should get Medicare so that they can go places like that if their disability is permanent. So then, but of course, if they go to private institutions like Mercy Hospital in Fridley or the other Mercy Hospital in Coon Rapids, that's when you kind of deserve a copay because those are private institutions and private institutions do deserve to make money. But Medicare, no questions asked. No matter how much you work, no matter how little you work. And then if your disability is permanent, I also believe you should get medical assistance through the county. So then, you can go to, because Medicare helps you go to the public ran institutions like Hennepin County Medical Center in downtown Minneapolis. Well, medical assistance helps disabled people go to private institutions like Alina Mercy Hospital in Fridley. Will help medical assistance. So then every disabled person should get medical assistance. So then they can have their public hospital and then they can have something for a private hospital. But if you go to a private hospital or private care facility, you should have copays because in my opinion, the US government should not be fully funding private healthcare institutions, only public healthcare institutions, because federal government should be giving money to the federal government. But, those are the things that I would first, decree, like, hey, this is how, if you're disabled and you're working full-time or you're disabled working part-time, these are the benefits you will not lose. Okay, so that's the first thing I would do. So then, they're like, cool, I can work 40 hours a week, pay money into taxes, and I'm not going to lose my Social Security. Or I can work 10 hours a week and pay taxes, get some fun money, and not lose my Social Security and my health benefits and my food stamps. Does that kind of make sense? Because that's what we need to kind of encourage, Hey, if you go to work full-time and disabled and you're permanently disabled, or if you work part-time and you're permanently disabled, you're not going to lose these benefits. That's what the federal government in the state of Minnesota need to do. Also, what they need to do is they need to build more low-income housing. But low-income housing also needs to make money. Because if low-income housing does not make money, developers are not going to build them or not going to maintain them. So what property developers need to do is they need to go to like old office buildings like in downtown Minneapolis, downtown St. Paul, and convert them. Or old office buildings in like St. Louis Park, Edina, Richfield, Bloomington, Maple Grove, you know what I mean, Coon Rapids, Blaine, St. Paul, Roseville, Woodbury, Maplewood, you mean these high-end suburbs, buy out their office towers or high-end areas, buy out their old office towers and convert them into apartments full with hundreds of studio apartments. And then, charge charge about $9.50 for them. Because then, because most disabled people can afford a studio apartment between $650 and $950 a month. So then, you can build all these 550-foot studio apartments, charge $950 per month, and then you be making money. And then what you do is if these disabled people want parking, that's when you charge them for underground parking, and maybe charge them about $250 a month per underground parking spot. So then you can make money from the disabled people who want parking, and then the disabled people who don't want parking, you won't make the money off. And then, but you can still make money by putting so many disabled people in a building and charging $950 a month for a studio apartment. You have so many residents in a building that you will make money. And then plus whatever ones want a parking spot, you'll make money off the parking spot. So in the basement. And also, to make these studio apartments nice, you can have a little kitchen, a little laundry room, and a little bathroom, and a bed that folds into the wall. Because when I lived in the LaSalle apartments in downtown Minneapolis, I paid about $950 a month for a 550-foot place, and I had a little laundry room, a little bathroom, a little kitchen, and my living room and bedroom were one. So when I folded up my bed into the wall, I had a living room. And when I folded my bed out of the wall, it became my bedroom. So you just need to build the property developers just from New York, San Francisco, Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada. These big property developers just need to come to Minnesota and build us disabled people something that simple. We just need something that simple, like how I lived in downtown Minneapolis for $950 a month. You just build things like that, and trust me, you will get customers. Even, senior citizens on fixed incomes, would easily move into a place like that. So when I mean low income housing, I don't mean like Section D, where they only take 30% of your income. Or fixed market, where they might only take $650 a month no matter how much you make. When I mean about low income, I just mean something between $650 and $950 a month, and we don't even need a whole one bedroom. Just make us a 550-foot studio for people like me who are minimum wage workers, disabled, senior citizens who are fixed income, can have someplace nice to live. We just need, and then if they want parking, they pay for it separately. And then also, be kind of a little nice to have a little gym. So, as disabled people, when we don't have to go anywhere, we can go work out in the gym. And we don't need a swimming pool. We don't need a hot tub. We just need an apartment building that has underground parking for what we need. A studio that's about a size that's about 550 square feet for $950 a month at the highest, and a gym. So in the winter here in Minnesota, we can go someplace and work out. That's the only simple things that we really need as someone who's disabled or fixed income to live. You mean, and also, it'd be kind of nice also living out in the suburbs, because it'll be better because the land's cheaper out in the suburbs for property developers to buy. And sometimes out in the suburbs, taxes are even cheaper. So if you're in a suburb like Maple Grove, Edina, St. Louis Park, Richfield, Bloomington, Maplewood, Woodbury, and Roseville, there's also high-end shops around to bring you in customers. So then your apartment buildings would definitely still get full. So you have cheap rents, affordable rents, basic living, a basic gym in your apartment building for people, disabled and low income people and senior citizens to use. And your apartment will be full because it's in a nice classic suburb. So and then we need housing like that because so if everyone gets a fixed rate, this disabled people get a fixed rate of Social Security no matter if they work or not, they have someplace nice to live. They still get their food stamps so they can still buy groceries. And they still have their medical care. And then they can just take Metro Mobility, if they can't drive like me, from their basic apartment to downtown Minneapolis, get their medical care at Hennepin County Medical Center, and that they want no copays and stuff, and then take Metro Mobility back to their low-income housing. That's kind of how simple of a world that disabled people just want to live in. It's just that simple. But these big politicians like Jeff Bezos, Katy Perry, Taylor Swift, Microsoft CEO Bill Gates, these rich, powerful business people that control our politics. They don't understand. That's all what us disabled people truly want. And then if you give us that simple thing, we will work our butts off for you. You just need to provide us and simple things like that. And also what pisses me off is about being disabled in America is that you would think when you're disabled, the government positions will hire you first. Nope. Not happens. So when I, for example, applied to work at the City of Columbia Heights Top Value Liquor Store owned by the City of Columbia Heights, I'm disabled, right? And I'm applying for a government job and I want to contribute to the government, right? They don't hire me. They hire a normal person to work for the government. And then those normal people who work for the government complain about how they have to pay so many taxes to support us disabled people because we don't have a job. So it's almost like you want to tell these government leaders, I want to tell the people in the City of Columbia Heights is, hire me to do something in the damn City Hall so then I can have a stable job, a stable 9-to-5 job, pay taxes to the government, and commit myself to the government, and contribute to society. Because if even state service for the blind in St. Paul, most of the people who run that agency are not blind or visually impaired. So in my opinion, Tim Walz, the governor, should say, blind and visually impaired people should be running 95% of state services for the blind, because blind and visually impaired people should be running the programs and employed to help other blind and visually impaired people get employed. That's how, I just feel about it. And the issue is when even the government and city entities like the City of Columbia Heights, the City of Maple Grove, the City of Fridley, the City of Minneapolis, government entities, the City of St. Paul won't hire disabled people, and they rather hire normal people instead that don't have any disabilities. That's the problem. Normal people without disabilities should be working for private companies like Walmart, Target, Cub Foods, Lunds and Barley's, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, you mean? People without disabilities should be working for private companies, and people with disabilities should be running government departments. People with disabilities should be running the FBI. People with disabilities should be running the CIA. People with disabilities should be running the city of Columbia Heights. You mean like running the help desk, running the billing department? You mean people with disabilities should be running like 95% of the government. Because if people with disabilities worked and ran 95% of the government, we would be making money and we would be paying taxes, and our unemployment rate on the disability community would be very, very low. I'm sorry to say, nonprofits like Goodwill, the Salvation Army, that get donations, 95% of their staff should be people with disabilities, not normal 15-year-olds who have the opportunity to drive a car and work for a private company like Target and Walmart. I'm sorry to say, us people with disabilities need to start being pissed, because the U.S. government should be hiring people with disabilities over regular people, because normal people without a disability have the ability to work in private businesses and private enterprises like Amazon, Walmart, Target, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Costco. You mean those kind of industries. Apple, Google, Microsoft. You mean people without disabilities have the ability to work in private industries, and the U.S. government should be like 95% hiring only people with disabilities to run the government. And us people with disabilities, we have the ability to run the government, but big rich people like Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos don't believe in us. Because if Jeff Bezos came out to his Washington Post paper and posted an article saying, hey, disability people should be running the FBI, running the CIA, running the Social Security office, and all this stuff in support for people with disabilities, it would happen, because he controls like 95% of the retail industry, you mean, and 95% of the print media, you mean. So it's kind of one of those things that, you know, that government should be hiring disabled people over all people first, and city governments too, you mean. And then whatever they can't find disabled people to fill, that's a spot in the government, that's when they hire non-disabled people, because it's kind of ridiculous. And if, you know, they did that, more people with disabilities will be employed, and more people with disabilities would have jobs and have more financial stability. And even when you're working as a disabled person, they don't take away your Social Security of $1,200, your food stamps, and such EBT card, and your medical care. So then disabled people are willing to work full-time and commit to a government job full-time. And, you know, and also disabled people are some of the most loyal employees out there. You mean when they get a federal, local government job. So then, you know, you'll have people who will actually stay committed to a role for 20 to 30 years, or until they die or something happens. You mean? So it's one of those things that, you know, I get pissed, because even the government who wants us to do things are not the ones employing us. So, yeah. And then also, in my opinion, that this is maybe a Minnesota thing, I mean, maybe whatever, people with permanently disabled, you know, from the federal government should be able, here in at least Minnesota, I don't know how other states do it, should at least get a special card from the federal government saying, hey, this person's permanently disabled. He should be able to ride all public transportation for free. Because the issue is, you know, a lot of disabled people have to take slow, non-reliable public transportation to work. even if they get employed, right? So as a reward for taking that slow, unreliable public transportation to work, disabled people, at least here in the state of Minnesota, should be able to ride on the city bus in the public trains for free. And, they'll give you this little card, and you just take this little card and you can scan it on the to-go readers, and it'll say, oh, fare free. And then you can just hop on the train or bus. Because in my opinion, disabled people should not be needing to pay for public transportation. If you're a senior, pay for the damn public transportation. If you're a normal person who's just too poor to have a car, pay for the damn public transportation because you're normal. But disabled people who, like mine, whose disability is never not going to go away, I'm never not going to have the opportunity to drive, I'm never not going to have the opportunity to have a car, should be able to ride the city bus and the light rail trains in Minnesota and other cities in the United States for free. But, Metro Mobility should not be free, because Metro Mobility, the ride sharing service, that is, a private company getting paid by the state of Minnesota. So that service should not be free. That service should be $4 a ride, because Metro Mobility needs to make money. While the Metro Transit buses, like the 10, the 11, the D, the C, the 18, the 22, the 32, city buses like that, they're owned by the state of Minnesota / the federal government. So, those buses should be free to all disabled people who's permanently disabled. But private companies like Metro Mobility, who need to make a profit, should not be free. So, and then some more disabled people would, because cool, I can hop on the city bus for free, like the 10, the 11, the 22, the 32. More disabled people who live along those bus lines would work their jobs along those bus lines and then contribute more to the economy. So, and also, I just wish that small businesses like Bob's Produce Ranch, where I work, would promote their disabled employees. For example, we're not telling you to be woke by saying, hey, everyone, we only hire disabled people. Come shop here. I'm not trying to be not be kind of woke like that. But what I'm just trying to say is, there's 4 disabled people who work at Bob's, take all 4 of us, and put us in together and just take a picture. I'll have my white stick out. The other employee will have her insulin pump showing. And then another employee would have his mobility device out. And then take a picture, and with us holding produce, saying, hey, come to Bob's Produce Ranch today. We have fruit, we have food for all different kinds of people. And then post that on their Facebook and their Instagram and their Twitter and stuff. So then what's happening is, when people are scrolling through that, they'll be like, cool, they support people with disabilities, but you're doing it a proper way and not the woke way. Or not the DEI way. So it's one of those things, that I wish more companies like Bob's Produce Ranch, small companies, would do more things like that. So then, it brings more, and then it shows people, everyday people, normal people, that look at disabled people like Dustin can work in private industry and make Bob's Produce Ranch money. So, it's one of those things that and the government needs to encourage small businesses like Bob's Produce Ranch to do that. But until the government does something like that, it's not going to happen. We need to get more disabled people in the workforce without them being punished. And the good thing about that is, and housing D type developers, like the ones we have here in Columbia Heights, should encourage that policy and push for that policy. Because, for example, because those Section D housing suppliers, they get 30% of your income, right, to live there. If disabled people made more money, right, and they have more amounts every month of money, those developers can take more 30%. You mean? So pretend if, like, I'm getting $600 a month and they're only taking 30% of that. You mean they're getting less than $400 a month to house me, right? But pretend if I'm working full time and I'm getting Social Security and I'm getting $2,500 a month, right? And they take 30%. They're getting between $950 to $1,500, of a month for me living there, because they're only taking about 30%. So Section D housing property developers should also support my plan, because if their clients can make more money, get some money from Social Security, $1,200 for sure, and then be able to work full time without being punished, right? Or part time without being punished, they would be able, and they have more money in their bank accounts. Those Section D property developers they're only allowed to take, some of them are only allowed to take 30, some of them are only allowed to take 50, and some of them are only allowed to take 60%, right? So it depends on your county and what the county has contract with them. So those Section D developments would actually make more money if the disabled clients would actually be able to make more money. And then it would make more low-income housing developers that build Section D housing want to build more Section D housing, because they would be able to make more money. So, and then the negative about that is if they lose their job, they'll just have to take less money from their clients, but they would still make way more money the 2 months their clients, for example, were working more. So it would also benefit Section D apartment developers that make low-income housing for disabled people who are way worse than me, that only can take maybe up to 60, 50, 30, or even 20% of their clients' income to house them, even make more money, making more developers want to build that kind of housing. Because in America, we're a capitalist system, and we need capital to make the system better, or make the system work better and improve the system. But if you don't give disabled people more money, or let them make more money, you are not going to have as much capital to flood the system to improve things in the disabled community. So that's what big people like Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, they need Tim Pool. He's a big, powerful thing, and political people, big news people like Fox News, Tucker Carlson. That's the one thing they're not getting. The more freedom you give disabled people and the more money you give us, the better our community's going to get and the better we can prosper. But the government is trying to suppress us, and that's not a good thing. And even if we're being suppressed in the United States with our benefits and stuff, we're still better than people in Mexico. We're still better than people in South America who get nothing from their governments. So I'm blessed, at least I'm disabled in the United States, because if I was like Alvarato down that runs Eyes on Success, he runs his blind podcast, his own podcast I compete with, All Abilities Network. There you go. Alvaro, who runs All Abilities Network. It's a podcast I listen to. I share it in my Minnesota's blind vision impaired community. He doesn't get no federal money or no government in South America and Colombia. He's only alive because of his parents. So, and their money. So I'm happy I'm not born in like South America or Mexico, where being disabled's even harder. You mean? But America, we're supposed to be the most powerful country in the world, right? We're supposed to lead by example. We should be leading by example, empowering disabled people, not suppressing disabled people, like the way the current system does now. You know, so that's how I kind of like feel about it. And also, what also ticks me off is accessibility tools are so damn expensive. If the United States wants more disabled people to work, we need access to accessibility tools, and that needs to be cheaper. Like, for example, wheelchairs or electric scooters should not cost disabled people $6,000, $7,000. The federal government should be able to go to Mexico and say, hey, Mexican government, can you have a company start a factory down in Mexico where you can make red scooters for us and sell them for $1,200. So then that $5,000 scooter can be $1,000 something bucks. So the U.S. government and accessibility companies, they need to go to places like Mexico, the Mexican government, and say, and hey, we want to build a factory in your province. I think they call them provinces outside the United States, or state, or whatever they call their districts, and say, hey, you know, we want to build wheelchairs in your area for disabled people in the United States and have them underneath this value, and we want to sell them. Is it okay if we do that here? You mean? And they can go down to Mexico, build all these wheelchair accessibility tools in northern Mexico or southern Mexico or Mexico City in central Mexico, and make wheelchairs, accessibility tools like 3 times cheaper, send them to the United States, and then disabled people can actually afford the accessibility tools. And once the disabled people can actually afford the accessibility tools, they can actually get them, and then they can actually travel around and do things independently. And then once they can travel around and do things independently, they can work for the federal, local, or state government or private companies like what I do, you mean? And then contribute to society, you mean? So because accessibility tools, like some things in the low vision community, and you mean, they're like $4,000, $5,000, you mean? I'm like, no company should be selling an accessibility tool for $5,000, $6,000. Well, you can go to China and get rip-offs of those parts they're using and sell it for, or Mexico, and sell it for half the price. You mean? It's like, and then those people in China and Mexico, they're happy because they actually have jobs and employment, and their lives are better than before the factory was there. So you mean, so the U.S. government needs to encourage companies who make accessibility products for the disabled community to move their factories to places like Mexico, India, and Kenya and Africa, you mean, and have them make accessibility tools there. So then when they ship them to the U.S. for us disabled people here, we can actually afford them and become independent and productive people. But, you know, and then, you know, and because they're going to be cheaper, there's disabled people outside the United States can also have the ability to afford them because they're cheaper. So the U.S. government also needs to encourage companies who make accessibility products to start making them more affordable so more disabled people can buy them and live independent lives. So it's kind of like, you know, a double sword answer. Well, guys, I hope you guys have a good day. And this is how I would solve the problem about not as many disabled people working as there should be. And if the government actually listened to my solutions, more disabled people would be working. Well, I hope you guys have a good day. Bye-bye.